Hello everyone, you are watching the 9th video of Genesis in a Bible study video series. In this video we will go through Genesis chapter 8, verse 15 through Genesis chapter 9, verse 17. Verse 15 begins, "And God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth from the ark, thou, and thy wife, and thy sons wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee of all flesh, both birds, and cattle, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful, and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went forth, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him, every beast, every creeping thing, and every bird, whatsoever moveth upon the earth, after their families, went forth out of the ark." Continuing on in verse 20 it says, "And Noah builded an altar unto Jehovah, and took of every clean beast, and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And Jehovah smelled the sweet savour. And Jehovah said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for that the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more everything living, as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." The reason why Noah was supposed to bring 7 pairs of clean animals was because these, though obviously not all, would be sacrificed. If you remember, God said in Genesis chapter 6, verses 17 and 18 that he would establish his covenant with Noah. Either Noah was offering a sacrifice in thankfulness to God, or he was commencing the covenant that God said he would make with Noah. Strong says this about the word translated as covenant in chapter 6, verse 18. A compact, because made by passing between pieces of flesh. Don't forget that sacrifices weren't new to humanity at this point. Cain and Abel both offered the products of their work to God in Genesis chapter 4. The King James Version footnotes says that the word translated as sweet means a savor of rest or satisfaction. Strong says that the word translated as heart in verse 21 means the heart, also used figuratively very widely for the feelings, the will, and even the intellect. Likewise for the center of anything. When looking at the transliteration of the word and related words, according to Strong, in Strong's Hebrew Dictionary, it seems like the Hebrew word that's translated as heart is actually supposed to sound similar to a human heartbeat when spoken. I don't know if this is true or if it just looks that way in English characters, but I found it interesting. Notice that here in verses 21 and 22, God's decision fulfills the meaning of Noah's name. Back in Genesis chapter 5, verses 28 and 29, Lamech had a firstborn son. Though Lamech's words might not have been fulfilled in the way that he thought they would be, they were fulfilled in a way. In case you don't remember, Strong says Noah's name means rest. Now let's move over to chapter 9. Verse 1 begins, "And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the heavens, withal wherewith the ground teemeth, and all the fishes of the sea, into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be food for you, as the green herb have I given you all. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood, the blood of your lives, will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man, even at the hand of every man's brother, will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. And you, be ye fruitful, and multiply. Bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. The word translated as replenish in verse 1 simply means to fill, according to Strong. This verse can't be used to show that the whole earth was filled with animals and humans before the flood, which would show that a worldwide flood was needed, because it seems like it could easily be translated as fill and as refill. Actually, this same word is translated in Genesis chapter 1 verse 28 the same way as here, and, as I've said before, Adam and Eve were the first humans. More than likely, this was the first time God gave his permission for man to eat animals. In the Garden of Eden, animals most likely were very peaceful and were vegetarians. In Isaiah chapter 11, a prophecy is given concerning the time of the Messiah. I believe this is during the 1,000-year reign. In this prophecy, it mentions animals that would normally be dangerous or natural enemies of each other being at peace with each other and humans. Of course, I think I should point out that this may only describe Jerusalem, and maybe Israel in general. It depends on how verse 9 is supposed to be taken. It's interesting that even though by Noah's day there was a recognized distinction between clean and unclean animals, the distinction seems to have only been for sacrifices. God told Noah he could eat any animal he liked. Continuing in verse 8 it says, And God spake unto Noah, and to his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, and every beast of the earth with you, of all that go out of the ark, even every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of the flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. I should probably point out here that God's covenant was concerning the earth's destruction, and everything on the earth, by a flood. This doesn't mean that there can't be some other form of destruction. This is important because 2 Peter chapter 3 verses 7 and 10 state that the earth and the heavens will be destroyed. Continuing in verse 12 it says, And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you, for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. Strong says this about the word translated as bow in verse 13. In the original sense, of bending, a bow, for shooting, hence, figuratively, strength, or the iris. Some people enjoy making fun of this section of Scripture. You'll see comments about how it came from some myth about a god hanging his weapon, a bow, in the sky. You may also hear that a rainbow is only the sun's rays being refracted by water vapors in the atmosphere. As far as the myth, how do you know the myth is original and this account isn't? Doesn't the fact that so many people had myths concerning a worldwide flood show that at least some of the information, though not all, is true? From what I've heard, they sure agree a lot more than seems possible if it wasn't an actual event that man witnessed. Also, concerning the bow, notice that in verse 16 it says that God will, quote, look upon it. This is important. Though the Hebrew word means a bow, as in a curved weapon used to shoot arrows, the text does not seem to imply that God was powerless without it, as would be expected if God was supposed to have really set his weapon, which he uses to fight and kill with, in the sky. Other than that people use this to make fun of Scripture, this seems to be a perfect word choice because it describes what a rainbow would usually look like, a bow, and the word can be taken symbolically as God hanging up his weapon, showing peace. As far as the rainbow itself, it is, of course, true that it's created by sunlight shining through water vapor in the atmosphere. The question is, what does the text mean? Does it mean that the rainbow wasn't ever in the sky before? Or does it simply mean that God was now using it as a symbol to remind himself and man of the covenant? I don't know the answer, but consider this. No humans living on Earth today existed at that time. Should we simply assume that things were exactly the same then as they are now? I'm not suggesting that light worked differently before the flood, only that there could have been a very logical explanation for why a rainbow was never seen before this time in history, if that's what the text means. The word translated as cloud in verse 14, and pretty much everywhere else in the Old Testament, has a connection to the idea of covering, and Strong says that it means a thunder cloud. My guess is, and maybe Strong intended to show this in his dictionary, that it's just a general word for clouds, usually being dark or hard to see through, based off of its use throughout the Old Testament. If you liked this video, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel to see more like it. You can also watch videos from this Bible study video series on my website, which is www.dinaglos.com. If you're interested, you can even find out how to get free and legal copies of many of the resources I use in these Bible study videos. You can find this and more on a page on my website called Recommendations. Go to www.dinaglos.com/recommendations, or you can find the page in the website's menu.